Page 95, homework. When we did this, when we talked about it in class, we said that if they have like bases, that means the base, the 3, it's exactly the same. That means that you write down the base and you are going to add the exponents. Now, I also told you in class that you must show this step. If you don't show that step, then I am not giving you credit for this. So you must show that step. If you do not show that step, I will not give you credit. So this will get me 3 to the 12th power. Now, I also said that you did not have to multiply that out into standard notation. So we're just leaving it as that. Over here, there is a rhyme and a reason as to why the parentheses must be here. You must leave them there. If you take them away, you will get a different answer. So you must absolutely leave those parentheses there. On this last one, on the top row, we have -6. Again, the bases are exactly the same, 5 plus 2, and I must show this step. I would get -6 to the 7th power. Over here, these two have the same bases, but this is a different base, so I can't combine them. I can combine the first two, but I cannot combine the last one. So this is 4 to the 6th power times 2. Now, if we were doing, what was I going to say? If we were simplifying this more, yes, I could simplify this more. And this would be 4,096 times 2. And so if I multiplied that out, I would get 8,192. But for right now, this is the step that you would have stopped at. Some of you either got help from online or a tutor or something and came up with a different answer. I told you guys I didn't want you to do that. On this one, this first one has an exponent of 5. This one right here, it is written down. That number is written down. That means there is an exponent of 1. It is not 0 because it is actually there. So I write down, they all have 2's, 5 plus 1 plus 4. Again, you must have this step. If you do not have that step, I did not give you credit. This next one. Now, when we did the little more complicated one, I said to put the coefficients out front. Now, the person who did this for us, they've already got the coefficient out front for you. Then we have x's over here. So we add their exponents. We get -6 to the 10th power. We get x to the 7th power. We do not combine those exponents because -6 is not the same base as x. They would have to be exactly the same base in order to combine. On here, these bases are the same, so we just add their exponents. On this one, I have a 3 here and a 3 here. How many 3's are there? There's 1 3 there and 1 3 there. We have y to the 3rd. Look at this. This is written down. So that means it's y to the 1st power. It is not y to the 0 power. It is y to the 1st power. So I add my exponents. Oops. I added it already in my head. And then I add these exponents. So I get 3 to the 2nd power, y to the 8th. Now 3 squared, you should know what that is. That's 9. So our answer should be 9y to the 8th power. Then on this one, I have a 2 here, a 2 here, and a 2 here. 2 to the 1st times 2 to the 1st times 2 to the 1st. I have a to the 10th times a to the 2nd times a to the 6th. I add my exponents. I add my exponents. Of the ones that have the like base, I add those exponents. I would get 2 to the third power. I would get a to the 18th. 2 to the third, that exponent is less than 5, so I would multiply it out and get 8. Okay, and then here we go on our last line. I put my coefficients first. So that would be 5 and 2. Those go first. Then, boys and girls, in this next slot, I put my m's. I have m to the 6th here, and there's an m there. That's m to the 1st. You've got to write that little one up there. Some of you are having a really tough time with that. Then I have n's. I have n to the 8th, and I have n to the 10th. Did you notice I have coefficients here? I have m's here. I have n's here. I put them all together. I would get 10. Then I would add my exponents of the ones that have like bases. So I would get 10, m to the 7th, n to the 18th. On this one, I'm looking at my coefficients first. I have coefficient, coefficient, coefficient. -5 times 2 times 3. Then I have x's. So I have x to the 10th. Here I have an x to the 1st, but I need to write that down. And over here I have an x to the 4th. So I had an x here, I had an x here, and I had an x here. Then I have y's. This is y to the 1st power. I'm going to write that down. I have another y to the 1st power right here. And then over here, I have a y to the 2nd power. Then I have a z to the 6th. And I have a z, and that would be to the 1st power. Notice how I have my coefficients, I have my x's, I have my y's, I have my z's. They're all grouped together. So -5 times 2 times 3 is going to get me -30. Then I would add my exponents of the ones that have like bases. So 10 plus 1 plus 4. 1 plus 1 plus 2. Oops, my z was weird. 6 plus 1. So I get -30, x to the 15th, y to the 4th, and z to the 7th. And last but certainly not least, I have this coefficient, and this coefficient. I have -5, -2, 8 squared. Some of you forgot the squared part. Then I have an x here, and that's x to the 0 power. Then I have an x to the 5th power, and the last one doesn't have an x. So then I look at my y's. I have a y to the 10th power. I have a y to the 8th power. Then I'm left with a z. So times z to the 10th power. Okay, -5 times -2 gets me 10. 8 squared is 64. Then I have 0 plus 5. I have 10 plus 8. And I have z to the 10th. Multiply these together and get 640. X to the 5th, y to the 18th, z to the 10th. I hope that helps.